It was spring break 2018, possibly the liveliest time of year to get loose. I was 19 years old, fresh out of high school and a curious young adult. My friends and I drove down to Miami, Florida for the break. Spring Break City is what we'd call it. I'm not going to go into too much detail, so I'll just jump straight to the point. We all split an Airbnb for our trip as, like I said, we would be staying the whole break. My parents gave us some emergency money just in case, but being 19, we'd know damn well we'd spend some of it. We rented the Airbnb from this guy who we'll call David. David was a chill guy. He was one of those free-thinking hippie vibe type of guys. Weird, but in a good way. He even gave us a discounted rate on our stay since it was technically our first spring break together. Plus, the beach was not at all far from the Airbnb, so everything we needed was in walking distance. Our first 2 days went as planned, with us getting done the things we wanted to do for the highlight of our spring break. The beach, nightclubs, bars, and even casinos. A lot of the stuff was 21 plus, but that didn't stop us from having our fake IDs. We were hitting every activity on our list left and right. Now, let's fast forward to the third night. We were all at the Airbnb talking amongst one another when our other friend, Jess, decided she wanted to go for a quick walk on the beach. It was around 1 a.m. and the beach closed at 10, though that was never enforced. As I said, the beach was in walking distance from us, so we let her do her own thing, but to just be careful. My other friend went to do God knows what in her room while I just stayed on the couch watching whatever was on. About an hour passes, and it was then when I noticed that Jess hadn't been back yet. Knowing her for the last 3 years, she's not the type to be gone for long, and something in my gut told me something wasn't right. I go to my other friend, and she agrees to come along to go find Jess. We leave the house and practically speed walked out to the beach, only to find not a soul in sight. There were thankfully footprints in the sand, and after following them for a good few minutes, we saw her sitting on the sand just staring out into the ocean. I breathed a sigh of relief. She was safe. However, she didn't appear to notice or care that we were near her, as she just kept on staring out. Only after putting my hand on her shoulder did she begin to acknowledge us. When I asked why she was staring out at the water like a bozo, she told me to shush and asked if we'd seen it. Saw what? I asked. She then points to something out toward the water. At first, we couldn't really see it, but because of the moonlight, I was able to see what she was pointing at. In the water, way past the shallow end, was a person keeping afloat with their head sticking out. They kept absolutely still, likely facing our direction so they could definitely see us. When I asked who it was, she said that she didn't know, but they had just kept making this awful noise that left her petrified. Turns out, this was the reason she didn't want to move. According to Jess, she only heard this sound twice, and that was enough to startle her. I told her that it was probably some druggie and that we should just leave. We grab her hand and we start walking back to the main road when we hear the scream that chilled us to the bone. We turn back, and to our shock, we see this person swimming to shore fast. We book it back, but because of the sand and how tired we were, it slowed us down tremendously. This person comes onto the beach and starts bolting towards us, but by that point, we were already on the main road. We look back, thinking he had followed us, but to our surprise, he was nowhere in sight. There was a police station not far from us, and we decided to go there just to give them a heads up about the guy on the beach. However, they didn't seem to buy into our story as, to be fair, it did sound fabricated. I thought that them clearly seeing 3 young women in distress would certainly take us seriously, but I guess not. The next day, we had canceled our stay at the Airbnb and booked a hotel in a different area. I'm not sure who that person on the beach that night was and why he had chased us. I mean, it was obviously someone not in their right mind and certainly not someone friendly. Why they chased us is unclear, but I had serious concerns about Jess staying on the beach that night. In fact, I sometimes wonder how things would have turned out for her had we arrived to come get her just 10 minutes later. She wasn't very athletic and was not at all strong. I think we saved my friend from something potentially horrible happening to her that night. I've been an avid fisherman for over 6 years now and have worked at several different companies as a commercial fisherman, catching snapper, dolphin, whatever is biting and paying, I guess. I was 26 when this happened. I attended grad school in marine biology and had been granted a week off for our spring break. Many graduate programs don't typically offer spring break for students, but I guess I was lucky. During my trip, a buddy and I decided to take a fishing trip off the coast of Hawaii to find the many different species of fish, primarily the ones that were native to the Pacific. We had rented this fishing boat for a few days so we could have a better chance of getting a decent catch. One night during our stay, my friend and I decided to take the boat out at around 1 a.m. to catch a specific type of fish in the area. This fish was semi-nocturnal, and this was the ideal time to catch one. So, him and I are offshore on an average boat with nothing around us but pitch blackness. It's a lot more scary than you think. You had to be there to believe me. One of us is on one side of the boat, while the other is on the opposite, not making a peep, trying to catch this fish. About maybe 20 or so minutes later, we both hear what sounded like humming coming from somewhere around our boat. I asked my friend if he had heard that too, to which he said yes. The humming sounded like it was coming from a person, specifically a woman. I motioned for my friend to turn on the deck light, and to our shock, we found nothing in the water. It made absolutely no sense, as the humming was coming from literally right next to our boat. Seriously, it made me almost piss myself. Every time we heard it from one direction, it would always change to the other direction when we went there. After some time of searching around the boat, the humming stops and my friend yells at me to get over here. I run to the back of the boat, and what I see in the water made my blood run cold. There was a woman who looked to be in her late 20s or early 30s just floating on her back in the water. She did not appear to be alive. However, the odd thing about her was what she was wearing. She wore this dark blue dress that was way too small for her. She wasn't wearing any shoes, but she had on a necklace and a single ring. We both stared at each other in disbelief, thinking if we had just witnessed the aftermath of a murder. My friend and I go inside the boat, attempting to radio the Coast Guard or anyone from shore. We were unable to reach someone, and after a few more attempts, we went back to go check on her, only to find her gone. It had only been 3 minutes since we last saw her, and even after shining the light in the water, she was nowhere in sight. At that point, we decided to end it there, as we were both absolutely creeped the hell out. Back on land, we agreed to not speak a word about what we had seen. Had we told someone, we'd probably be suspected of bringing her on board with us and dumping her body in the ocean. Obviously, we didn't do that, but people aren't going to believe that we just found her. A few days later, my friend had looked up missing people in Hawaii, specifically Maui. After looking through hundreds of people, we never found the woman we saw, and she has yet to be identified. The thing that creeped us out the most was that we were several miles offshore and found this woman in a long dress. It's like putting a puzzle piece where it doesn't fit. It made no sense. If you live in the Maui area, I emphasize you please contact police if you have any information. This encounter keeps me up at night. Spring break of 2018 was a time I'll probably never forget and is something I may never move on from. I was 23 at the time of this story. My friend Kayla and I had drove all the way down to Miami to spend spring break by the beaches. We came from a small town in rural Virginia and we've never been to Miami, so we wanted to see what all the hype was about. I've seen many videos and photos of people claiming how Miami was sort of the go-to spot for spring breakers and tourists. We both kind of wanted to see it for ourselves, and that was why we went there. We booked a hotel on Ocean Drive and got it for a good price last minute, which was lucky enough. Our first day there went as usual. We got up early to go fishing and hung out at the beach for the rest of the day. We weren't really in the mood to go to the beach, but then again, we were only here for a few days, so we had to take advantage. At one point, the state trooper had ordered the beach to be closed as they apparently had a curfew for beachgoers at a certain time. With nothing to do, Kayla recommends we walk down Ocean Drive and find a club we can possibly get into. We've never really been to a nightclub, so this will be our first time ever going to one. After about 30 minutes of searching, we spot this one mini dance club that was decorated with a sort of early 2000s aesthetic with neon lights. That seemed to get our attention, and we pay the entrance fee and try to have a good night. While the club had a decent amount of people, it wasn't that lively, especially since it was spring break. The choice of music wasn't that great, and a lot of people just kept to themselves. At one point, we grabbed a drink of what we assumed was hard liquor and sat down at a bar when this guy we had never seen before approaches us. He introduced himself as Max and had offered to get us a drink and that it was on him. I was always taught never to accept drinks from strangers, so I of course passed. However, Kayla accepted, and within a few minutes he brought over her drink. Before drinking, however, she excuses herself and says that she's going to use the restroom and asked if I could go with her. I know it might have seemed weird, but considering the fact that we were in a public club really made her uncomfortable. She goes to the restroom while I wait for her to come out. As I'm waiting for her, I'm on my phone when I happen to look up and see the man quickly put something in Kayla's drink. It happened so fast, if I hadn't looked up, I wouldn't have seen it. Now, I'm not by any means one to confront someone, but I sure as hell wasn't going to make Kayla drink that. The second she comes back out, I tell her that we had to go, claiming that I was tired and wasn't feeling well. While she insisted we stay, she respected what I said and we thanked the man for the drink who made several attempts for us to stay. It wasn't until we left the nightclub where I had told her the guy had dropped something in her drink. She was instantly shocked by this, and we had told the bouncer, who thankfully took action. I'd say within a few minutes there were several police officers in the bar who had come out with the man in handcuffs. What they found in his jacket were several traces of strychnine. It's a particular rat poison that's mainly used for killing rodents and such and is very harmful when consumed by humans. No matter what the ounce was, if she had taken even one sip of that drink, she would have been dead within the hour. I'm not sure why this man had the intention of killing her or if he just wanted to steal her purse or something. Either way, this was the time I saved my best friend from something potentially horrible happening to her. We don't go out to bars or clubs anymore, and we certainly don't accept drinks from strangers. To all younger people, especially girls listening to this, please be smart when going out and never accept anything from anyone. We were dumb and naive, and I didn't even think twice about it. Don't make the same mistake we did.